Welcome to the Happiness Matters podcast with me, your coach, Julia Seal, where we explore the puzzle of whole being happiness as professional women in our midlife, how to coach ourselves and live into the best version of ourselves, resilient, creative, and thriving, no matter what. Hello everyone, and welcome. Yes, welcome to the start of Series 3 on the podcast, where we're coaching and crafting our midlife wholebeing happiness together. Today, I'm going to kick off our exploration of what's ahead on the podcast and what you can look forward to in this next series of Interbeing, what's at the center of our wholebeing happiness. A couple of things first. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast in your podcast player so you can get the latest episodes downloaded automatically. And everything else is on my website, Happiness-Matters.coach. There's my coaching notes by email, your link to sign up to a free session where we can talk more about your midlife issues, all the free tools and worksheets mentioned in the podcast, as well as my recent lives and interviews. And you can also sign up for my upcoming Happiness Habits Challenge, all at Happiness-Matters.coach. Now, if this is your very first time listening to the podcast and you're really struggling right now, I've got 2 past episodes that I hope will help you. If you're in a really bad place, feeling pretty desperate, listen to episode 135, COVID-19, Stay Calm and Coach Yourself. I released this at the start of the pandemic, but it distills a lot into one place with tools to help you immediately. Then, if you're not feeling utterly terrible, but rather you're stuck, bored, frustrated and irritated with yourself, then have a listen to episode 2.31, Liminal Spaces of Midlife, How to Really Love the Unknown. And of course, a free meet and greet session is the quickest way that I can help you. And many of you know how I use the idea of the jigsaw puzzle in my coaching as a way for us to explore what it means to be creating unfolding midlife wholebeing and midlife wholebeing happiness. I use it to bring sense to the way that we can craft our midlife happiness like our own original piece of art. I did a lot of jigsaws during the pandemic and the long months of lockdown here in South Africa, and the analogy makes complete sense for me. We're so often puzzled in midlife, so why not puzzle our way to a newfound wholebeing happiness? Even the podcast is arranged around this. And don't forget to download my free guide to the podcast. Series 1 is all about how we're defining happiness for ourselves at work and at home. So really digging deep into how we define happiness and how we want to define it going forward. And these are the outer edges of your midlife jigsaw puzzle. And Series 2 are the corner pieces of the jigsaw. The 4 basics, the essential brain and body skills you need to hold wholebeing happiness together. Actually, the basics of resilience. And now in Series 3, we're starting to put pieces into the middle of the jigsaw, the space in the middle. What are the ingredients of our midlife wholebeing happiness? What's in the center? And I promise you, it's not our midlife middle-age spread. Okay, so this center of your jigsaw puzzle might be all jumbled up and confusing, really busy and messy, and it might even be empty if life has backhanded you with divorce or death or empty nest and leaving you at a place to redefine who you are at midlife, what gives your life meaning, what actually does make you happy. And earlier this year in episode 231, The Liminal Spaces of Midlife, we look at the idea of the liminal, the space between where you are now and where you'd prefer to be, the place of transition. This betwixt and between space is the game board of your life, of the white canvas of your midlife in creation. It's your puzzling journey. And I'm really crazy about hanging out there, even if it is blank. Not rushing it, not rushing to get out of it, not trying to change it because it's too unpleasant or uncomfortable. There is something truly magical about being here in this in-between place. So hold it lightly, cherish it for what it is, see what the world's wisdom offers you about the liminal of one chapter closing and another opening. What we can learn from Janus, the ancient Roman god, or from crossing the river of misery in ancient Greece, from the Buddhist Bardo states of consciousness, or from modern Franciscan friars. There's a lot. And, I've actually been quite stuck in my own liminal space this year, as the world was going back to whatever we're now calling normal, or the new normal, and I've been feeling anything but normal. Somewhat stuck, frustrated, very, very tired. I worked hard through the pandemic. I coached a lot. I was angry quite a bit at not being allowed to see my fading mother. One of my darling dogs died unexpectedly overnight. And I got to a point after my birthday this year where I really needed to hang out in the liminal for a while, to rest, to grieve, to feel my feelings fully, and to allow what's next to gently unfold. And one of the things I do when I'm feeling stuck is watch Netflix. It's a useful holding place for me. So I walk a lot. I watch the sky changing above the mountains a lot. I meditate a lot. And I watch a lot of Netflix. And I've just finished binge watching the final series of the Netflix show Grace and Frankie. Don't you just love those two? So the theme song playing in my head as I'm writing this is Stuck in the Middle with You. The secret to making transition and change work for us in midlife is to take the time for what's next to gently unfold, to be okay with messy and uncertain, no matter how uncomfortable it is, and where there's no clear pathway ahead yet, to be okay with being stuck in the middle, especially since I'm stuck in the middle with you. Of course, it's so uncomfortable for most of us. We rush it. We either distract ourselves out of our pain, buffering or procrastinating with things like being busy, watching too much Netflix, or we blow our lives up completely, ask for a divorce, have an affair, resign from our jobs, and jump to the next thing that might be the thing that's going to make us happy and content again. And fogginess, lack of clarity of what's next, is not just the postmenopausal brain. But I truly believe the lack of vision and clarity the changing hormones force on us over these years are essential to developing whole being happiness in our later years, regret-free living, deep, unshakable happiness. Eventually, if we don't rush, if we don't distract, if we don't layer on self-judgment and the self-hatred of I should be, if we can hold ourselves gently until something starts to feel right and something starts to birth, that's where the magic begins. What began to unfold this year, and that's now become a clear next step for me, is something a little bit crazy. I'm going to be starting a new 20-month post-pandemic and beyond journey, and I've been accepted onto a master's program in the US. So yes, at 53, 54, I'll be deep in the academic world. This time, my master's in happiness studies. The very first master's program of its kind in the world, and I'm in the first cohort. So exciting, so crazy. Some other very clear ideas of what's happening next here with you and Happiness Matters are filtering through too, so listen on for more. And really, even when you're feeling lost, or just foggy, for sure, something new is unfolding in every moment. Whole being happiness in midlife is in creation by you in every moment. And what better place to start gently exploring while you're feeling out of sorts is what's at the center of your midlife jigsaw puzzle, what's at the core of your whole being happiness. And if you're feeling completely lost, well, this seems like a crazy, ridiculous ask, doesn't it? You'd be doing it already, wouldn't you? You'd probably not be listening to a podcast on midlife happiness. And we can get very, very distracted, my friends, by trying to find what's at the core, which often results in us being busy for a few more months until the unease of midlife wells up again from the inside. So new clothes, another Netflix show, fixing the house, going on a trip, they all work for a while until they don't. So, what to do? Well, we can definitely turn to the science of happiness and see what we can learn from the various models of happiness. What ingredients of happiness should we be focusing on? We've got Spire from Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar of Harvard fame, and who is my teacher and leader of the new master's program. We've got PERMA from the father of positive psychology, Martin Seligman. We've got more from the University of Berkeley's Greater Good Science Center, from Yale, and all those eminent academics out there who are digging deeper into happiness concepts every year. I will link to past episodes on these models in the show notes. They will give you insights into possible ingredients to your whole being happiness, all the little puzzle pieces that make up your very own version of happiness in midlife. But here at Happiness Matters, we're going to be doing it a little differently. We're embracing it all the science, all the wisdom of our ancient traditions, all the learnings from our multicultural world, and we're exploring the biggest puzzle piece of them all, the one that the science of happiness tells us is the single biggest contributor to our happiness in life: relationships. And not just in the traditional sense of your love relationship or your social relationships. Here in Series 3, we're going to be looking at everything through the lens of 3 core relationships. All the ingredients, our entire whole being happiness in midlife, is 3 core relationships. So 3 core relationships that lie at the very center of our midlife whole being happiness, the inside of our unfinished jigsaw puzzle. 3 pathways as to how to actually create the inner picture of your jigsaw puzzle. And 3 core relationships intertwined like one of those beautiful Russian wedding rings. We've got our relationship to others. We're in relationship with other humans, our lover, our mother, our dead relatives, our children, grandchildren, our close friends, our work colleagues, acquaintances, future acquaintances, past relationships, our relationship to the world. We're in relationship to everything else outside of us, the earth, all creatures, our role in the world, our purpose, and our contribution. And then our relationship to ourselves, the most essential in all of this, foundational really. We're in relationship with and to ourselves, all parts of ourselves, spiritual, physical, intellectual, our emotional self, our subtle self, our past, our current, and our future self, and actually all possible versions of ourselves in the future. You hear me talk about whole being happiness all the time, bringing all aspects of ourselves, all the ingredients of happiness together into one whole. Everything is included. Whole being is the well-being of the whole person. But how we craft whole being is something more than just a compilation of happiness ingredients, more than a scientific formula of happiness tools that we just randomly apply to our lives to see if they work. Instead, what lies in the middle of our puzzle is the unique artwork of our individual lives, an interwoven creative play, an ever-moving, ever-changing, joyous mess of color, thought, shape, smells, sounds, feelings. Through these pandemic and post-pandemic months of coaching with you, an expanded way of seeing whole being happiness in midlife unfolded for me, one that is unique to our times, one that is not limited to one specific scientific model applied like a medicine to fix our despair and our unhappiness. What unfolded is something that adds to whole being by using this lens of relationship. Interbeing, the art of interbeing, the science of interbeing, the poetry of a life of interbeing. We're in relationship to and with everything. We are participants in a dynamic whole within which we define ourselves and create our reality through our participation in relationships. 3 core relationships to and with everything. Absolutely everything about us and our midlife whole being happiness is interconnected. To be is to interbe. So through series 3 on the podcast, we'll be unpacking these 3 core relationships with others, with the world, and with ourselves, and crafting our whole being and expanding our interbeing. As we weave through these 3 interconnected relationships, what's ahead for us in the next few months? How can we hang out and do this together? Because I'd love to explore this with you. So join me to start digging into what's going on in these 3 core relationships in your life so we can turn around what's not working. So they all contribute to your happiness instead of draining it, exhausting it, possibly poisoning it. Join me to look into toxic conflict, irritating spouses, adult children acting like toddlers, how we respond to world disasters, meaningless work, and self-judgment and self-hatred. You can sign up to coach with me right now in the remaining weeks of 2022. We've got 8 weeks to look into one close family relationship specifically, or to learn the fundamentals to apply to all social relationships. I coach this program individually and also in group sessions. So jump online so we can meet and see what I've got available and what you need. The next group starts in November, just in time to see you through the holiday season. Or why not start the longer journey of unpacking your happiness and dissatisfaction at the deepest level, creating your whole being happiness and crafting your interbeing in all 3 core relationships, starting with 108 days with me. That's about 4 months. If you go onto the website Happiness-Matters.coach, right at the top, there's a yellow puzzle piece. Click on that and set up an appointment to meet me, like right now, this week. You can also join my mailing list by signing up for my coaching notes. This is where you'll get all my free tools and deep dives into a topic, as well as any important notifications. Then later on this year, we've got a Happiness Habits Challenge, and this one's all about relationships, so don't forget to sign up for that. We've got 8 days. And then also look out for my regular Toxic Conflict Through the Holidays series to help you through those particularly difficult days. And remember, join me live. Diarize Wednesdays when I go live to talk about these 3 core relationships every week. It's on Wednesday, midday Universal Time. That's 12 p.m. GMT, which is 8 a.m. Eastern Time or 7 a.m. Central Time if you're westwards from me in the States. 1 p.m. currently in London and 5:30 in the afternoon in India if you're in the East. Lots to remember, lots going on. Get on my mailing list for everything. And of course, so as not to miss any of this goodness coming up, please subscribe to the podcast in your podcast player. You'll find out how on my website, Happiness-Matters.coach. And there you have it, series 3 in a box, and we're ready to go, ready to coach together, journey together into these 3 core relationships, how to expand them so they contribute to our whole being happiness in midlife, and how to live into our interbeing. Next week, we're going to go deeper into interbeing before looking at why the science of happiness says relationships are such a powerful ingredient of our midlife happiness. My friends, may you be happy, may you be free. There is no better time to coach together. Bye for now. I am so looking forward to whole being, interbeing with you.
Thank you for joining us on this Happiness Matters podcast, coaching your whole being happiness in midlife. To join Julia for more of her midlife conversations, subscribe for free to her coaching notes by email and to this podcast. Search for Happiness Matters in Midlife to find us in your favorite podcast player app. Once you're subscribed, both of these will be delivered to your device automatically. To find all of this, click the subscribe menu of our website, Happiness-Matters.coach. That's Happiness-Matters.coach. COACH. And thanks again for listening.